Fortnite has been out for quite some time now, and we've seen new items come and go, but rarely do we see new settings. That is until this past week when they introduced the new gyro settings for controller. But will this new setting improve your gameplay? Let's talk about that. So these are going to be your default settings that you're going to see when you first look at the gyro options here. Now, gyro aiming, when you move your controller, it's going to move your camera as well. So you're pretty much controlling the game with your controller. Now, this only works for PS4 and PS5 controllers because the Xbox controllers don't have the gyro mechanisms built into the controller for this option to work. If you have a PS4 or PS5 controller, you will be able to use these settings, but unfortunately, if you have an Xbox controller, you're not going to be able to use these. If you're going to use gyro aiming, you're going to have to turn it on. That should be common sense for everybody. There's a lot of different things that you can have here as far as the active mode combat. So you've got obviously the none, scope only, scope aiming and harvesting, or always on. There's a couple of settings here like the flick stick all the way down at the bottom. If you have it on, then you will have to have the active mode combat always on as well. These two will always have to be on if you plan on using the flick stick, which we'll get into that more. If you don't want to use the flick stick, my suggestion for it would be scoped or aiming. So that way you can still use your analog sticks to look around and aim and all that good stuff when you're not actually like scoped in. But there are some advantages to having active mode to scoped or aiming, which we'll show in just a second. Now, active mode building, I really haven't messed around too much with this. I've seen some people editing with the gyro mode. You can get your crosshair placement pretty good with it, honestly, and make some pretty fast edits. But I would recommend just having it off. You don't want to have to be moving your controller around the entire time while you're editing, doing double, triple, quad edit. This isn't going to be as useful as, say, like the aiming is, simply for the fact that when you're doing the gyro aim, it kind of replicates mouse and keyboard in a way, since mouse and keyboard players, they use their entire hand to aim and look around and all of that. So same thing with the gyro aiming, except you're having to kind of move the controller around. Now, like I said previously, if you do not have this always on up here, then you'll want to come down here and disable this. However, if you do have this always on, then you can enable this to make it a little bit easier on yourself to actually look around without having to use the gyro, and also being able to use the flick stick as well. I didn't really mess around with the sensitivity stuff because if you're aiming with the gyro, might as well make it the same sensitivity that you've been used to the entire time, right? Now, obviously the flick stick is going to have a little bit higher because you want to be able to like turn around quickly and, build, shoot the opponent, whatever the case may be. There's certain times you want to be able to turn around really, really quickly. And that's where the flick stick comes in handy. Now, all of this I've left, kind of default. There are advanced gyro options as well, which you can see adds in a bunch of scope multipliers, aiming multipliers, harvesting multipliers, a bunch of stuff to make you move a little bit quicker with the gyro functions, right? There's a ton. I haven't even looked over all of these, but this is the section that we need to talk about. Over here, you can use either the X or the Y button to disable gyro, which you're gonna need to have if you plan on using the flick stick, because without having that option, and if you're using the flick stick, then you're always going to be using the gyro controls. If you plan on using the flick stick, then also have a button right down here to be able to disable the gyro settings, so that way you can still look around normally with your analog stick. So now we're gonna hop into creative, and I'm just gonna kind of showcase some of these things here. All right, so gyro settings. As you can see, when I move my controller, I'm moving in Fortnite. This is how that works. You see, if I move my analog sticks, I can still walk around and whatnot, but I can't like look around unless I use the gyro settings. But with this, you're able to use the flick stick which you're seeing now, pretty much turning whichever way I want, right? If I want to look behind me, I go back and bam, I'm looking back. So one more time, back, and you automatically just turn around, which is really awesome, but not having the control to look around as well kind of makes this a bad option, in my opinion. It's really cool, but this setting is still kind of buggy because when I press X, it's supposed to disable the gyro settings to allow me to still look around. But for some reason, that does not work. I don't know why, it just doesn't. I could be doing something wrong, I don't know. I've tried messing around with it, haven't been able to figure out why it doesn't work, but that's okay because we can always just turn the flick stick off like so. And now I can look around normally, right? Use my stick to look around, which if you're going to use the gyro settings, this is what I recommend, because when you're aiming, you can still use the gyro settings to aim. So it can be super useful if you're trying to track an opponent or something and you want that kind of steady mouse control. And the one thing that makes gyro so good is the fact that with the MK, you literally have no recoil with the MK7, which, as we know, the MK7 is already super broken as is. The gyro settings just make it that much more OP. Now, if you suck at tracking the opponent, on the other hand, it really doesn't matter what settings you have on because you're probably still not going to hit a target anyway. But as I've shown, I'm not the greatest at tracking, but the not having recoil will probably still help you out a little bit. It's a really good setting to have on. I know what you're thinking. Why isn't everybody not using this setting? Like, why haven't we heard more news about controller players using this setting? And this is the big kicker. So as you can see, I don't have aim assist on that zombie, which is the biggest downfall for a controller setting to have. And that is why I do not recommend anybody use the gyro settings. I don't know if this was intentional, if it's just like a bug that they haven't figured out how to fix yet. It is currently a thing in Fortnite. So no matter how well the pros are for these settings, as far as like the no recoil for the MK, being able to turn around super quickly with the flick stick, there's still a lot of bugs with the gyro settings that need to be ironed out before I can recommend using these settings. And the fact that it has no aim assist, like that's the deal breaker for me, okay? Now, if you're someone who plays on controller and you already play with no aim assist, use gyro settings. Why not? Go ahead. You're already playing with no aim assist. You're already comfortable playing with no aim assist. Improve your aim a little bit more by using the gyro settings and getting zero recoil with the MK7. So the final conclusion is the cons of having gyro settings turned on outweigh the pros for having gyro. Do not use the gyro settings. They will not improve your gameplay. That's going to do it for me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're new and you like these tips and tricks videos or competitive gameplays or even theories, sometimes I do theories on this channel about Fortnite. Hit that subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.